Hello guys, welcome to the Trading Parrot. Primarily fear. That is what I see when I look into crypto Twitter, comments, people decimated all over the place. Could this be a leverage flash cleanup that was necessary for a new all-time high? Or are we being too quick on switching back to the expectation that a new all-time high is incoming? Remember, an overcrowded expectation in any direction cannot be good. In today's video, I'm going to show you how the expectations of a new all-time high are starting to squeeze into some data. And we'll see if it's reaching a level where we should be more cautious or if it's still a secret move that some whales might be about to take advantage of, in which case I am interested. Yesterday, I couldn't manage to fill my order, so I have moved the position, my order placement, and I will give you an update as well on my short. Remember that at the end of the video, there's always a summary specific for scalper and swingers that typically lasts just 2 minutes. And if you want to cheat, you can look into the description. There is timestamps so you can jump into any of the topics of this heavily data-loaded video. 2 minutes is what it takes to open a new account on Tubit. Are you on the lookout for a new exchange? This is a great option that I'm currently using. I've been asked which exchange is safe, and the answer is none. The way I approach it is I split my allocations for one trade in one exchange. I use 3x and I put another one in another exchange. At the moment, my preference is to divide and conquer by using Tubit, Bluffin, and Bybit. You can use the links in the description to get some offers and to support the channel. But in no way I'm saying that I have a crystal ball also to know that all exchanges are safe. To me, they look okay, but don't get me wrong. I do not trust any exchange to put too much for too long. Indeed, once we are in the bear market, we'll see how many exchanges are going bankrupt. This one is convenient, is easy to use, and I haven't had any issues so far. No KYC required, access to leverage, access to decent volume, altcoins, and they're giving you some reward for a comeback. 100,000 USDT is gonna flip your losses into wins. To join this, the link is in the description. Looking at the news, coin shares, 2.67 billion flow into Bitcoin ETPs in the last week, which is positive. Of course, we saw what we saw, but that flow is something to consider as well as some flooring that we currently have. US spot BTC ETFs saw net inflows yesterday. That is also positive. After 2 days in the red, 100 is kind of a positive twist to the day. Glassnode CoinDesk post-crash deleveraging. Funding in position reset. That is highlighted as slightly bullish. In my opinion, whenever we get a flash this size, which we never had before, we usually get 2 billion and we're talking about 20 billion. So this is the first time that we get something that big. But the bigger the flash it is, the more chances that we get at the very least a dead cat bounce, some relief rally. We'll look into how many shorts are piling up, very close to 112 into 117, and if that can really take us very soon there. That's a low-hanging fruit, as I mentioned in yesterday's video. So here's the first insight. We have Glassnode highlighting the BTC options market show net premium concentration between 115 to 130, suggesting that traders remain positioned for upside overall at the very least. Despite the futures flash, call demand dominates, implying investors see the drawdown as a leverage reset. If this gets too overcrowded, this is a bearish alpha. Market maker won't allow too many people to have expectations over 115 to 130. Indeed, the most likely outcome usually when you get a scenario like this is that you get another move down, getting them not to win, and then we start and resume a move to the upside. It doesn't have to play like that, but I consider this something that gets me itchy when seeing too many. And this morning, there was a massive government outflow. The US government just moved almost 10,000 Bitcoin linked to the Chen Zig's pig butchering scam. That's over $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. Let's keep an eye because that is a finger in the trigger. The Bitcoin short-term holder SOPR indicator shows whether short-term holders are selling at a profit or at a loss. Let's remember what we want if we want to take a long is people selling at a loss. The current reading of below 1 indicates loss realization and weakness in short-term demand. Yeah, we can see it right there below that number, but we can also see that in the previous low, we went way lower in the SOPR. And if I go to my own version of the SOPR using an oscillator in here, you can see that it peaked to the lower end at 1. It didn't print a buy signal, but it was as low as this level in here with people realizing losses. I would have expected a lot more during this week down, like pinching below 0.98, and now it's quickly going back into 101, which means that some people managed to enter along in here or from before, and they are realizing that profit in the green. If that was a lot more than 101, for example 106, then we will say, well, too many people took profits in the green, and we are not going to manage to get that much further up. At the moment, I think the SOPR is just giving mild signals, not necessarily a very clear message in here yet. But of course, in this channel, we'll continue to monitor that. Dan is stating that he thinks that we are still ranging in here. We got rejected from the all-time highs. We did a full journey into the bottom of the range. We pierced the same level with a slightly lower low, that right there. But we again reclaim the inside of the channel, and now we are in the area of the chop. 112 and 117, according to Dan, is the range that he wants to monitor for strength or weakness. And Crypto Goose is showing this interesting chart. Bitcoin demand is fading. According to him, you can see that in bull markets, you get a spike of demand, and eventually every single higher high in the price falls short in demand relative to the previous high, as you can see in this cycle or after in 2018 to 2019. Each high had less demand. Same happened in 2021. We had the peak demand at around 40K, but price managed to get to 69, but always at the cost of the demand fading. And we are kind of having the same thing. At 73.5, we have the spike, highest level of demand, but with each new high, you get less demand. And that is, of course, something to be aware of. This means that the risk of entering around these prices is that eventually it doesn't reach a positive level of demand and you enter into this red area in here. Guess what? If you're still in a long at that point, you either take a big loss or you inherit a red back for a long time until you are back into an area of a spike. And that is, guys, 4 years. So that's kind of the risk. Of course, the pattern can break, but it has never broken before. And yesterday we have a whale taking a short for 500 million. The position was still open. Eventually they closed it down, and a new whale opened a new position on Hyperliquid, this time for just 137 million. Yep, a lot less, but you can see that there's still a lot of speculation around shorting Bitcoin. The next one is something bullish. Of course, printing more Tether indicates that people are still around and they want to do something with that cash. That's why it's needed. Tether print 1 billion in here. And then we have 3 billion of fresh liquidity minted after the crash. All of this morning. Look at those monthly candles. The Bitcoin Prairie is saying, look at those wicks. Would you call this reaccumulation or distribution? Personally, I call it distribution. Having this size of wicks on the upper end on a monthly basis is definitely something to take serious. And taking serious doesn't mean that we cannot take advantage of a pushing to 130 if that happens. It only means that we need to fasten our belt because we know that there will be turbulences. This time, the worst turbulences in the flight. Believe it or not, people see this and they still buy everything they have on Bitcoin. They get pumped on excitement once they see a new all-time high. They show it to their wife and then a couple of weeks after, when you actually peak in the market, their position is 80% down, and they stop showing it to their wives. Although Bitcoin continues to hover around 112.5, the short-term realized price shows that short-term holders are still panicking. And I think, yes, the SOPR is on the end of 101. That is still a lot of selling, but I would have expected a bit more. Yesterday, over 56,000 Bitcoin held at a loss by short-term holders were sent to exchanges. And yes, what else can you expect if they are right next to their average entry price, which is today 113.5. That means that in average, you have same amount of people holding a position in a loss or in a win or neutral for short-term holders, and that is like ringing the bell for them to take action. Many of them panicking. Well, I'm barely in a profit, maybe I just take this and run. A couple of weeks ago it was 126. Should I just close it? Will it put another all-time high? I have no clue. Just sell it. And many of them in a small loss. And all of this creates some sort of snowball effect that this particular cycle has led usually into some period below it, as you can see there. That's the period where they actually capitulate. That's the period when the SOPR goes well below 1. That triggers a massive buy signal with very good risk to the reward, even if it's just for a dead cat bounce. So far, we still don't have it. If you're liking all this data, hit the like and write a comment down below. That really helps the channel. The TA in this channel helps you making money. I am more sure than that. The information is very dense. There is a lot to dig in. But my analytics in my channel are really crap. BTC, rarely we get bullish spot order books, especially on Coinbase with 100 BTC buy wall chasing the price. This is very shallow information. Do not worry, we'll look into the order book later in the video. You can jump into that if you find it in the timestamps, but do not miss that because this is poor quality. It's not really showing you properly what's going on with the order book. BTC filled the CME gap yesterday and is now back over 112. We talk about that. I wanted a long at 109.5. Maybe I was too greedy and I should have taken the 110. It went to 109.8, just $300 away. It's fine. I don't chase price. I am moving my order lower for that entry, contrarian to what you probably think. I'll let you know that number later in the video. Of course, my Patreon community already knows that number. I already share it. Not going to lie, I hate this result. This is another bearish alpha to keep in mind. Quantum Ascent was asking a big community. We're talking about 22,000 views in here and 1.6k votes. And a lot of people are expecting a new all-time high. That is worrying. This is retail people on Twitter. Then we have the options also expecting 130. So watch out with too many expectations. We need to read things in the opposite way. We don't get excited with the damn people in mass thinking positive. We get excited when they are in fear. We need to be vampire kind of traders, bloodsuckers, fear feeding from their worst nightmares. That sort of trader you need to be. Well, unless if you want to continue losing. The current environment is amazing for scalpers that are able to trade the intraday volatility. Yes, here we are doing exactly that. It is not really great for the dude that has huge expectations and trades blindly. That time was the early times of the bull market where you buy at 15k, sub 20k, and then you relax, chill for 2 years. You just let it ride. That time is gone, my friends. Just in 21 billion in net outflows from Binance in the past week. This is a yellow warning, not just for Binance, but for the industry of exchanges. Binance operates in a way that they are the biggest pillar of every other exchange. I can guarantee you that so many exchanges are under the hood using infrastructure or stuff that belongs to Binance, or even loans, money that belongs to Binance. If Binance goes down, assume everything goes down, okay? It's as simple as that. There's no safe exchange, and I don't mean to tell you do not trade, but if you're gonna trade with 10K, put just 3K in the account, use a 3x, and be vigilant where you're gonna need the margin. I don't trade with low margin, I just trade smaller positions, and if it gets too big, the account, I start cutting and trimming, particularly around events like this. Right, we have new questions from my community. Let's see what people want to know. I'm sure that you're gonna have some overlap in your questions. BTC seems stuck between the current low of 108 and the high of 115. Can you provide your view on a new narrative is needed to unblock the situation, or if we are most likely in the final rollover? What about the end of QT mentioned yesterday by Powell? New entry point for longs and shorts. I'm already in my short, and if we go into 117, 120, I might potentially add to my short if I see weakness again coming from indicators. I am not going to leave a limit order right there because we could face a V recovery in a new all-time high. Worst case scenario, I want to take some profit from that short. When it comes to a long, later in the video, I will share the number where I'm placing now my order. But Eric, you already know it because you are part of the community, so you already receive a message in the community with that number. Good morning, Parrot. Hope everything is fine for you. Please advise on those who have not taken any trades yet. If you haven't taken any trade, I'm looking for a long. It's a small long. I wouldn't short. No way shorting at these levels in here. If you can do it with risk management, with your own experience, and you're good to do that in a scalping context, fine, fair enough. Beginner, entering your first short in here is like literally jumping from balcony from a 20 floor and expecting to be fine as soon as you hit the floor. And yet there is some expectations that QT might come to an end. If it does, it's going to be very slow paced in my opinion. There's already some money being printed, by the way, and we saw on Friday how they were adding to their balance sheet, the Fed. So that's already a sign supporting this idea. It's the first week that they add. It was very small, insignificant, and that proves my view that it's not like an overnight quantitative easing the way in crypto Twitter are mentioning it. There's so many people saying, oh, we are back to quantitative easing, just take a damn trade, we're going to all-time highs. I don't use that data in that way. I don't have that expectation. Is there still a good long entry? Sorry, and back again with the QT-QE situation. If we go into quantitative easing in a fast way, it's a bad thing. That means that something broke as well, that they need to do cut rates in a fast pace, and many traders are going to take advantage to short the market in that situation. We'll cover that in the general markets video incoming later to not make so long this. Is there still a good long entry at 109,500? I'll cover that. Do we have any signs of local bottom, or can we still go lower? I'm seeing this long wick to the downside, and I'm seeing two lows in here, an equal low right there at 109.6. Ideally, we want to complete the double bottom at 116 and produce a breakout that takes us back into 120. That will be bullish. Building at the lows in here, of course, was great thanks to support, even thanks to the anchor VWAP that we tied into 74K. That level got hit twice in there, and before around here and before around there. That's still support. My worry is how fast people are getting bullish and their big expectations of the new all-time high due to seasonality that could put in danger that seasonality plays out, if you know what I mean. My wishes are all about seeing a lot more panic, people posting in Twitter on those polls that there's no way that the bull market is completely finished and stuff like that. The options being on the short side, all of that is fuel to help us get the all-time high again. Yesterday we had a breakdown on the 4 hour, as you can see in here, so there is some weakness as we try to put a new high in here. If we get into 118 or this 63, we will have produced some bullish structure, right? An equal low and a higher high relative to this. That is something. Liquidity is so bad on altcoins first times like this. Well, the liquidations, I would say, is one of the biggest ever affecting altcoins primarily. And I'm gonna cover this about tech stocks and mining companies in the general markets video separately. I was intending to hold only BTC into the last stage of the bull, assuming it happens, and then possibly rotate into alts if the opportunity became available. I will say after this leverage flash, that is a bullish thing, right? Clearing of excessive longs in such a massive way. If you enter at those lows, you are in a great risk to reward position, to even whether it's just a dead cat bounce or if it's a full recovery with altcoin season, it doesn't matter because you can trail it and you are risk free. Whatever you get is going to be green. And I will say that now people are really burned with the alts, and probably they're going to stay bearish against the alts. I want to see confirmation of that, which I don't have yet. I haven't found any tweet saying, yeah, now we are ready for the altcoin season, and people voting more than 60%. Of course, influencers all over the place saying that now we can do altcoin season. But on the other hand, I see people still bullish on Bitcoin because Bitcoin just retraced 10% and they're gaining that confidence very quickly back, thinking that we will do the all-time high, and that puts that BTC pump a little bit into danger zone, whereas the alts, with all these people in fear, could be the best scenario for the altcoin season to play out as well. I had good opportunity of load alts low cap during the Friday dip. I have now portfolio with 30% Solana low caps. In this phase, a good exposure to alts upside or risk if we enter bear market and get a low 98k. I can get the risk to reward ratio, so I will really like your perspective. And whatever you do, Samu, I mean, you have an option which is just place a break even on your longs. Unfortunately, that requires pretty much getting the coins into an exchange and leaving them there, or using some DeFi complex solution or tool to be able to put a stop loss, because we are at high risks of things failing, and I do not know if things are gonna fail or not. I just know that the risk is evident and that we need to act accordingly. So option 1, break even. Option 2, trail it and try to squeeze as much as you can to the move up. If you are really doubting that we're gonna go that high, the second option of the trailing is the best, because you squeeze as much as you can. If you are very confident that we're going to get an altcoin season, then I will go just for the break even, let it run as much as it can. Once it hits one of the targets that we typically cover in the altcoin video for total 3, for total 2, for others and stuff like that, then you can trim those positions later on from the break even. Paulo says, although I think it's wise to sell a big bag of BTC before the end of the year, I am seeing more data. The ISM has not crossed 50 yet. That suggests that this economic cycle could extend into 2026 and extending the crypto top to 2026 also. What's your take? Well, as I've been saying, there is no way I can tell you up front what scenario is going to play out, but we have a line in the sand on the weekly time frame for Bitcoin. We say that if we cross below the 50 SMA in here and we hold below it and we turn it into resistance, then there is pretty much no way back. We get a very confident exit into a bear market if that's the case. So far we are holding the bull market support band, and we are in a territory where price can really go for either option. Break this, 50% chances. Hold this level and put a new all-time high, 50% chances. So how do you trade that? Well, currently I'm looking for a long at support of this, with a look into averaging down if we break below, and then look for my dead cat bounce exit. If that holds, I will just end up holding one position and I trade it as high as I can. But all this paranoid trading pain first approach is all based on all this uncertainty that we're talking about. You can see me that I am not telling you, well, for sure we're going into 126 and into 2026 it's going to be massive. Because if I say that, I'm just one more crypto influencer that is worth nothing. And you can see how on Telegram people are checking my charts. They can access all these menus for free and get a bunch of charts up to date so they can see what's going on with all my annotations live. You can join using the link in the description for Telegram. So far, the aggregated open interest is not bouncing from this support that much. Very little positioning in here as we face the next resistance of 35 billion. So yeah, people are claiming that traders are coming back in a strong way, but I will judge by this and say not that much. It's not that much. So this could still push a little bit higher, even if it's a dead cat bounce, get rejected there or recover. So that positiveness that I've been referring to from options and from the poll in here is not that evident. So this is a point supporting potentially some additional upside, but watch out with losing 34 billion and landing in 22 billion in the next support. My Bitcoin status sheet is not up to date and shared in my community. Let's go with the charts. As I say, we lost this level, but we got as well a hidden bullish divergence, or just a bullish divergence, I will say. So there's still a chance to go into 63.74. That is currently trading at 118.7. That will be the next resistance if we manage to turn the structure into bullish. Support at the moment, I will say, is this 109.6. I really want to enter around there or slightly lower. I'm interested in a level, and that level comes from this 108.2, that if we overlap it with this area in here, that is 109. So that area, not specific price, for me is interesting, because if we were to now lose the level, we got that liquidity right there. Of course, I might not get lucky to get there, and there is actually more liquidity here at 117. We've been talking about that level as a low-hanging fruit that we could be heading into. Unfortunately, I couldn't enter right here. So I don't chase price. So what I do is I look for the next level of liquidity, see where it's mostly heavy, where it starts declining, and I look for a center area and I say, well, around there I get a chance to expose into a small long. On the daily, we bounce off the support of 37. That got hit yesterday, I think, or the day before, and we continue to hold, which is 109,600. Any rejection from 120 to 117 means new lower lows for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin has a strong responsibility now to very quickly prove that October and November will deliver what is expected, which is the most bullish months in the year. And for that, we probably need, by this time, we are mid-October, sort of a V recovering here to break above 120 and go and take the previous all-time high. As simple as that. Unfortunately, it's a tough task, but I still think it's doable. That's why I'm looking for a long, and I am protecting my short at a level that is still in profit in case Bitcoin managed to do that. We're battling with the CPR levels around here. The last one ends at 113.6, which is a level that many people have referred as let's regain that and we can continue to the upside. We didn't touch the top resistance, that is 129.6. So if you are bullish and you think that we can do it this month and resume with the bullishness of October, November, that is the next level to hit. Whereas if we get a new low, that is 97.6. That is sub 100K. And I will expect that if we get into that level, the amount of longs liquidated on Bitcoin specifically, this time not altcoins, will be so bad. SOPR will print such a huge buy signal that if by that time I'm in a long, I will definitely average up around those levels. Of course, we are going to need to get lucky to get there. That level is below the 50 weekly, but it can get wicked down and still not call for a bear market like we have done already a few times in this cycle. Trying to get bought up in here and canceling out the head and shoulder. That is what I'm seeing on the weekly. For that, price needs to reclaim 114 and close around that level. Same with the CPR. And that's an early weak signal that we might be able to do a V recovery or a dead cat bounce that could even get into 120k. Support on the monthly is still holding. We covered that extensively yesterday. We remain on the lower end of the oscillator of opening interest, so this means that I am still looking for a long. I have permission from this indicator in a way. Coins destroyed was peaking around the 24th of September, where I say I do not like being with the coins destroyed so high in here, so similar to every local top. And you can see how it puked now into the level of 0.08. If we got into the level of 0.6 to 0.7, we are going to be very close to areas where the accumulation starts resumes. That could be another bullish alpha if we get lucky to be there again. We are in fear at 34, just like a little bit more fear than yesterday, I will say. The past 3 months liquidity shows a big bucket around 95k. We could say it starts from 97 into 93k, and on the upper end we have the one that we just built from the all-time high that is not that intense up until 140. That's 3 months, of course. If we look into longer term, we can see how that is still the highest pool, left at 128, followed by 141 and 135. Either of them are way bigger than what we have on the lower end. Remember, we don't have to take everything to start a bull market. Even if we go into 140, then 152 is going to take the next bigger pool. A market maker has to take compromise at some point and just let some people win all the way down into a bear market with a short. So this spike in here of the last 30 days is kind of making me want to enter along around those areas. My confidence that we can hit that level is not that high. I'm going to tell you in a second why. Purple whales are pointing down. That means that there is no big interest in taking longs around here. They tend to lead the pack. They're very accurate. We have some intense support spread from 112 to 111,500. You can see it in yellow right there. And there is some distribution going on at 113,500 to prevent this from really reclaiming that support that we so desperately need to be able to see those higher prices at 120 and 117. Here is something that is bullish. The shorts have increased the exposure so sharply, almost the opposite as the longs. That's why I have that bigger interest into enter a long instead of starting with a new short from here. I think Binance has update and that support is becoming weaker at around 111, and I will say that they move it down to 107, 105. So my order at 108.7 is not that bad because I will have discussion there, and hopefully that is all I need to take another swing to the upside. We can still see that the shorts are exposed. Yesterday it was 800k that pushed the price higher, not by a lot, but that reduced now to just 500k. Still shorts to expose. 117 has the biggest bucket of open interest that we currently have. All the remaining open interest on the lower end have been already taken and balanced. Does that mean we could go there? Well, this increases the chances of going into 117.8. After that, big buckets of open interest started from 122. At that point, I could already get my stop loss in profit hit on my short. In that case, I need to look for a new short. If we don't go there, I keep it open, of course. And there are these big fair value gaps still there. This is gone. Now we have the 115 and the 121. And on the lower end, we really need to take a big trip into 97, 98 to test any fair value gap. And that proves also my point that if we fail around here in any way, market maker needs to make a big move. This case is 14% to hit the first fair value gap on the lower end. That sort of risk we are talking about. And that's why averaging down in here, if you are already in a long, doesn't make much sense. assuming these are actually any attractive still. Alright, I'm gonna do my summary on today's video for scalpers and swing traders, starting with this pool in here that is calling my attention. It's located between 108 and 109, just to give some room. On CoinGlass is at 108 too, but on Trading Different is around the 109. And that's why I move slightly lower my long. I can tell that also in the order book they have moved the orders lower into the area of 108 and 105. What do they know? I don't know, but they just sharply removed the support of 112. I continue to ride my short. My long trade intention to open it is based on liquidating some of the excessive shorts at the moment. Some positiveness is coming into the market up when it comes to expecting some new all-time high soon, and I really like the idea of pinching slightly below 100k into 97, 95 very sharply, very quick to put some pain into Bitcoin and then resume into October, November. So why I'm not waiting for 97 to enter in a long? Because I'm not fully sure we will get there. It's just my preferred risk to reward entry that I might not get, in which case my compromise is to enter from 108 with a small position and see how it goes from there. Thanks so much for watching this video. Hit the like, write down a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.